seat at the table with some men with confidence.
And welcome to Men in Confidence Sharing, where we, the men of a certain age, share our thoughts, ideas, and opinions in confidence. And today we're joined by two members of the group. I'm your host, Tony, and we're joined by Rhino and Terrence. So we're going to go one by one and say hello to everyone. Hello, Rhino.
It's good, everybody.
And hello, Terrence.
Greetings and salutations, peoples.
All right. So today we're going to talk about what we have gained from parenting, and also what we wish that we did from parenting. So I'm going to start off with the first part. What have you gained from your parents or through parenting that's important to you today?
I think for me, I've probably gained those quirky phrases that your parents used to say to you all the time. Like, you know, some families say money don't grow on trees, or I've been told two that I say quite frequently are a broke clock is right twice a day and your hands aren't put on backwards. So I definitely pick those things up, and thinking about it, honestly, it puts a smile on my face knowing that I've brought that forward to my family, because they are kind of core things that I believe. My hands aren't put on backwards, so there's no excuse for me not to be able to utilize my hands to do things if needed. I'm not this helpless person who can't do for self if necessary. And a broke clock is right twice a day. You know, even the strangest of sources can provide good information on occasion. Doesn't mean it's always going to be right, but every now and then you never know. You can learn something from just about anywhere or anybody. So I dig it.
What I learned from my mother was the power of conservation. So my mother was the kind of person that had to have the lights off in every room when she went to bed. You up at night watching TV, we're in bed, turn the TV off. It's too loud. I can see the light. And somehow she could see every stupid light. And it's like, oh my goodness, Mom, leave me alone. But when I turned 26 and got my own apartment, and I got that first power bill, it was like, why is this light on? Who left the refrigerator open? What's going on here? I'm turning off everything. I don't want anything running that I don't want running, to the point that I had a roommate that was kind of the same way. And he would basically live in his room and I would live in my room. The kitchen and the living room would be the cleanest place in the apartment, because we're not going there unless we're going to eat. And then we're not even eating for that very long. The power is off everywhere. I haven't done this in a while. Actually, I have. I still do this. Yeah. This thing I'm about to tell you. When I go on vacation, or if I go out of town and I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, I unplug everything. I turn all the power off. I don't want anything drawing power. That's something I learned from my mother. It's weird, but it's just something that I do. Even if it doesn't matter, I still do it. It's just in my head.
Nothing wrong with that.
So Terrence made me think of several phrases that I used to hear growing up, from one link of chain don't rattle by itself, an empty wheelbarrow makes a lot of noise.
Those are good ones.
One of my favorite ones, if you can hum, you can hear.
Yes, sir.
But what have I learned? Oh my goodness, I've learned so much. I've learned how to be self-sufficient. I've learned how to take care of myself as well as others. Learn how to cook and clean. Learn how to fix random things. My goodness.
All good things. All good things.
Learn how to throw a punch. Hey, you got to live in my house. You got to be able to throw a punch in my house.
Hey, it is what it is.
Got to learn how to take one too.
Right?
Because one's coming. One's coming. If you ain't getting hit yesterday, you're getting hit today. Maybe tomorrow too. But man, just thinking about it, just brings a smile to my face. Thinking about some of the things that, like if you sat in a therapist chair, you're like, that happened to you? Like, those were good times. Nah, son, that's trauma. Let me write you a prescription. Nah, I'm good.
Oh man, that just made me
I'm
think.
sure the therapist would discover that we're all gold mines.
I was gonna say that made me think. I've learned obviously some good things, but then as you were talking, I found myself reflecting that one of the things that I've also learned through parenting was a sense of resilience to a fault. And what I mean by that is so self-reliant and resilient in myself that I don't share things sometimes. Like if I'm bothered by something or if I'm struggling with something, suck it up. I'm gonna push through it. I'm gonna get over the hump and I'm gonna make it happen one way or another, which is good. But sometimes that can be a heavy burden to carry depending on what it is you're going through.
So you're kind of tipping into the next question. Like, what are things that you believe that you did not capture when you were growing up from parents? Like, what are the holes? What are the things that were missed?
Okay, and see, when we talked about that as like, set up to what we're doing now, my first thought was like, well, I wish I had learned, how to manage money a little bit better, or how to deal with finances like mortgage payments and having a budget and that type of stuff. Wish I had learned that a little bit more. But I guess that whole expression within the family and talking things out sometimes versus what we were laughing about, throwing a punch and receiving a punch, it might would have been helpful to learn how to use your words, not your hands. But that's definitely something. And without being too over the top with this next statement, I feel like some of those father-son things that some dudes learn, I didn't get. And I kind of wish that had happened. I had to learn how to throw a football actually from my mom. But I got pretty okay with it. Had to figure out how to shoot basketball kind of completely on my own. That one I didn't get as good with, but okay. Certain things like being handy. I heard you mention that one. I fumbled my way through that even to this day. I am not a car guy per se, so that's always a touchy subject when it comes to doing stuff with my car. I do a little, but I get real kind of and it's a little antsy with tinkering on your car, especially when it's like your only one. Yes, your means of transportation. You're a little less likely to want to take that roll the dice on that. So, yeah, That's, I think, all I want to go into at the moment.
Well, as someone who spent a decent amount of time with his dad, I learned I didn't learn how to make money. I didn't learn how to make money. I learned how, let me rephrase that. I didn't learn how to save money. I learned how to make it. Because my dad's thing was, if you get anything out of this life, it'll be because you worked for it and because you worked hard for it. And I've done some very, very hard work to the point that I'm probably, I could be easily tipped over into being an alcoholic. I had to quit my other job because they took advantage of that. And I submitted to it because I had a car payment. But working hard, and my dad was a car guy. He was definitely a car guy. But I don't believe I learned that much about cars from him. I learned what I learned about cars from driving them and buying them and breaking them. That's how I learned about cars. I definitely know you got to check the oil quite often. You know, you got to do these things, do regular maintenance, because if you don't, then when the big stuff happens, it's like, it's your fault, you didn't check. But as far as those more I want to call them intimate things, like my dad didn't teach me about girls. My mom didn't really teach me about girls, but things that you would think a dad would teach a son about girls, I didn't learn from my dad. In fact, one time we were riding by a girl. I want to say her name so bad, but I'm not going to say it. But we were driving by her, and I happened to roll down the window and I spit out the window. and I don't think she saw me. I don't think she cared. But my dad was like, don't be spitting out the window in front of girls. How you gonna get one if you spitting? You know? And I'm like, I don't like her anyway. Whatever. You know, years later I would like her, but you know, it is what it is. But just that was probably the only advice I got about girls from my dad, except for when I became an adult and he was like, you got any kids yet? No, Dad, I'm not married. How can you not married? Dad, women are crazy. I don't got time for these crazy women. My mom did give me some advice on women, and it was good advice, but as a teenager, I took it the wrong way. And in my mind, I kind of despised her because I was like, what do you know? I found out years later that Mom knew a lot. She knew exactly what she was talking about. And I think it has something to do with me being really infatuated with this girl that I was dating. And her advice was not to put all of my eggs in one basket. And that's exactly what I was doing. But, you know, I was 17 and I knew what I was doing, and she didn't know what she was doing. And I found out, no, she knew exactly what she was talking about. Exactly. I was the one that was blinded by love, as they say. But yeah, I learned some pretty valuable lessons from my parents.
Okay, so things that I wish that I would have learned. I'll tip my hat to what Terrence said as far as money. I really wish someone would have taught me a little bit of something about money other than how to spend it. Like how to save it, what's valuable, what's not valuable, not being afraid of money, like not having the expectation of being poor. Like You're poor yesterday, you're poor today, you're gonna be poor tomorrow. You know, you're gonna eat nothing but Frosted Flakes without the tiger on it. your boss just gonna say Frosted Flakes, bologna sandwiches and hot dogs. You know, that's all. And leg quarters. That's what your life is gonna be. That's what your life is gonna be.
Yeah, that's not encouraging.
But just the thought that there was a big world, that there was a bigger world than the one that I was exposed to, and that it would have been a good idea to see it and see and experience people from other places and know that your current surroundings are not your limit. And here's the hard part about that. It's like, you wish that someone would have taught you that, but it's like one of those things where it's really hard to hold someone, like say, this is your fault that I didn't learn this. Like, I don't know if I could say that either, because, you know, if you have any experience being a parent or being a mentor or trying to mold anybody, you know that you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be 100% successful, and there are going to be things that you miss. There are going to be opportunities left on the table, and you're not going to. Some things you won't even see that you didn't teach until after the fact. Like you won't even see, like, you know what, I didn't teach that until after that person becomes an adult or after that person becomes older.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, as a parent, I think that's what I've reflected on the most with regards to this conversation, is that there are things that now I'm wanting to teach and impart that I didn't get. And that's kind of a tough spot to be in, because like, how do you teach what you don't know? Thankfully, YouTube covers some things, but you know, there are just certain life lessons that it would have been nice to have somebody sit you down, have certain conversations about, and prepare you for up front. That way, at the end of the day, moving forward, you'd at least have a baseline of knowledge and have an opportunity to filter out what you learned, what you got from it, whether it was applicable, how much of it was, you know, a little overhyped just to kind of keep you safe, versus how much was legitimate and like, no, that's real, and I needed to know that.
So this might be the same answer as the previous question, but when it comes to imparting knowledge on the next generation, or whether it's your child or another child or anyone younger than you, you know, what is at the top of your list as far as what you would want to teach, or what is it at the top of your list that you didn't get that you'd want to impart on the next person?
I think you said it just a couple minutes ago, that your environment isn't it. There's more to experience than your surroundings. I mean, it took me quite some time to really accept just how big a place the world is. And because the world is big, that means there's a lot of experiences out there to be had. And knowing that, I think once you understand it, I feel like that opens you up to being able to receive a variety of different ideas. It makes you able to dream about things in a different way and see things in a manner to where you can appreciate differences better as well as I think it gives you room to dream a little bit larger. It gives you space to aspire to more because you are aware that I am not defined by this 4x4 block of a city or whatever. You know what I mean?
That's absolutely correct. I would want to import that that variety is the spice of life. Don't be nailed down to just one place. I have family in certain states that they aren't going anywhere. That's home and that's where they're staying. No inkling of an idea of ever moving anywhere else. And I couldn't abide by that because as a kid, I didn't like where I grew up. I mean, I liked it enough, but I just had this idea that there has to be somewhere else better than this that I can go. And I'm still not done traveling the world, but I couldn't abide by just being in that one place. In fact, we were talking earlier. I was talking about going somewhere else. You know, I'm not necessarily tied down to the Northwest hemisphere of the United States. I love to go somewhere else. In fact, I still really want to go to England. I'd love to live in the London area for 5 years or so, you know, and then come back. But just understand that you don't have to live in just one place. You don't have to be there. And also money management. I would want to pass that down because if you're going to travel the world, you're going to need money. It takes money, and it takes being world-wise, because having met people from all over the world, mindsets are different, you know, and being able to live around people of different cultures and different mindsets is a huge plus, a huge thing I would like to pass on, because this I mean, we share this planet together. Don't think that the town that you live in and the media that you watch is it. There's a lot more, and don't let the media define everything for you. Get out and see it for yourself.
Okay, for me, I think the number one thing that I would like to impart on the next generation or someone younger than me is to be comfortable in your own skin. Mainly because
That's a good one.
one of the things that this world will tell you constantly, you won't hear it directly, but you will hear it indirectly. You will hear, you're not good enough, you're not A enough, you're not B enough, you're not C enough, you're not D enough, you're not tall enough, you're not fast enough. You should be a little bit more thug. You need to be a little bit less smart. You need to be a little bit more gangster. And it's like, you're never going to truly feel that you're meeting some type of standard set externally. So you'll end up in one or two places. You'll end up either becoming some caricature. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, you're gonna end up becoming some character, or you're gonna end up always. Well, that's A. B. You're gonna end up always feeling that you're not measuring up, which is where a lot of people are. Or what I hope you land on is C. Don't accept the limitations set by society. Don't accept the boxes that people try to put you in. be your unique individual self and just reject all of those labels that people try to put on you and be comfortable with it. Because here's the reality is that for the most part, most people feel that way. Like most people feel that they are not measuring up in some way, shape, or form. Most people feel that they're on the outside looking in. Most people feel that they're not meeting some type of external stereotype. So there's more of you than it is of them. Just be yourself. I know that's some garbage sounding advice. It sounds so stupid, but at the end of the day, you'll be happier that way than trying to fake be something that you're not.
I heard what you said, and I totally agree. I just want to kind of take the opposite position on that. You know, you're constantly being told that you're not enough this, you're not this enough. You know, sometimes, especially as Black men, sometimes we're told we're too much in regards to you're too angry, or you're too aggressive, or you're too, you know, sometimes too conservative. You're not, you know, edgy enough. You're too laid back. You're too calm. You're too passive. At the end of the day, being authentic, being like who you are, being true to yourself is most important. I just want to make sure I got that authenticity out, because that's what I think people resonate with most and I think we've all experienced it on somewhat level. You see somebody and you just know that that's who they are. They're being their fullest self, and in seeing it, you recognize it immediately as, wow, that has got to be like so freeing, so liberating, so easy just to be comfortable and say what you want to say, mean what you want to say, and do it in a way to where everybody is able to receive it, understand it, accept it, but not come away from it put down, hurt, or less than. So, and I think people who are authentic manage to do that with ease and effortlessly.
So this has been an interesting conversation, and I think it's about time that we go ahead and wrap it up. But anyone have anything they want to add before we close?
I threw out what I wanted to add: authenticity, and learning, being proud of who you are and where you come from. That's another.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. And that's, at the end of the day, you do want to be able to be proud of who you are and where you come from as well. Because
go ahead and expand on that. Go ahead. Take a few minutes.
That's another one of those things that people may try and tear down. You know, you can't be. You shouldn't aspire to be but so much. Look at where you come from. You know, you'll never make it in the big city because you're a country boy. How are you gonna manage out there in the country? You're a city kid. No one's gonna trust you because you're a slick talker, you're fast talker, you're always on the go. None of those things, neither one of those stereotypes really are true. There's, broken clock being right twice a day. There's bits of truth in any of it, but in general, nah. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you come from. Don't let other people's ideas about that influence you to be something that you're not. And I feel like this is kind of getting a little bit off of the topic, but not entirely, because that's one of those things that I feel like my parents instilled in my mom instilled in me, was to be Terrence at all times. And that's something that I definitely try to encourage my kids to do. Be yourselves. Speak up for yourselves. Don't diminish your light or your brilliance for sake of others. Be you, and be proud to be who you are.
So I connect that a little bit with what Rhino was saying, as far as don't limit where you go. Don't limit who you are. Don't limit what you can be. Like, I hear a lot of that in what you two guys have said.
I said that because that's kind of what happened to me. I remember dealing with bullies in school, and I don't like fighting. I've never liked fighting. I've never liked going to Fifth City. While I agree that sometimes you gotta slap somebody in the face, you also have to have the discretion to know when is the right time to slap somebody in the face.
We're not talking about that no more.
No, I'm talking about but just I realize that sometimes a person needs to have the starch on their shirt broken, and I get that, but I wish I learned that sooner rather than later. The things that my mother taught me, because she was my primary caregiver, basically turned me into somewhat of a pacifist. So if I was threatened, I'm gonna take the most peaceful way out that I can, just because that's my personality now. But I absolutely wish I had been taught differently. Now I'm a single man. I've never been married. I have no kids. But if I had kids, there's 3 main things that I would teach them. And that is, 1, how to handle finances. 2, I would put them in some kind of a martial arts program so that they can learn self-defense. And 3, I would teach them the value of being yourself, because trying to conform to somebody else's idea of you is a losing gambit from the start. No, be yourself. If they don't accept you, then hey, maybe they don't belong with you. You know, make your own path. But mainly because those are the things that I wanted but wasn't necessarily taught and had to learn later on. But it just is what it is. Hindsight is 2020.
So I'm gonna try not to go too far.
Not teach those things. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, Ronald, I hear you on the single man, kids, nieces, nephews, cousins can all still benefit from that knowledge. So don't feel like you can't pass that along to them as well.
So I'm gonna try not to go too far off the topic, but I've heard some things that Ronald said that I wanted to reply to. Okay, so when it comes to you saying that you became a pacifist, I'll be honest, I think that's the best thing to be, or a good thing to be, as coming from a family that's, let's just say, was pro-violence. That's rarely the answer. And oftentimes all that does is beget more violence. And like, it's just a chain reaction, and to bring it into current events, like with Russia and Ukraine, you attack me, I attack you, then my friend attack you, then you attack my friend, and then, it's just a chain reaction. It'll get too many people involved. But
right.
Also, just as a throwback, not naming any names, but, at various points in time and various degrees of participation, we all studied under the same martial arts instructor. And this was a guy that he used to teach that if a fight came in front of you, what was the number one thing you should do? He said, run.
That's true.
Like, if someone approaches you and want to fight, what do? Run. And you don't throw anything until you get backed into a corner and you have to fight. You don't fight until you have to, not because the opportunity is there or because you want to. You fight because you have to. Mainly because I don't want to get into it. Mainly because violence has consequences, and it starts a chain reaction. And I think the main thing is that if you've ever experienced violence or if you've ever been involved in something violent, you don't want to inflict it on somebody else. Like, it's one of those things, like, if you've had real loss in your life, even if somebody you don't like, you don't want to pass that on to, right? I don't know. That's just how I feel, and I feel like I'm getting way off topic. But I'm going to pull myself back in. But anybody else got anything to want to add?
I was just going to say, just knowing when. I am a pacifist, but like you said, if you're in a corner and you have to fight, I will fight. I'll take it to whatever level of violence is necessary. But if I can avoid that, that's going to be my first option.
Oh, go ahead, Terrence. Sound like he was about to say something.
I was gonna say, nah, I don't want to throw anything else out there too much to draw even more out and keep going, because this could just run on and on and on. And I saw the cues coming, so I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm just going to pass it back to you for the closing. Alley-oop.
Love the alley-oop. So, if there were some things that we didn't address, as far as things that you feel like you may have wanted to learn from your parents or did learn from your parents, we always love to hear from our listeners. Do share in the comments. And as always, thank y'all for listening. Like, share, and subscribe. God bless you. Good night. Deuce.
Peace out, everybody.